Sam, what is this? The Couchpact. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Couchpact, a Stormlight Archive reread podcast. Joining me today, as always, on this cold, wet rock is my good friend Sam.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Couchpact. On this podcast, we reread through every chapter of the Stormlight Archives, and today we are going to be going over the first Interludes.
Yes.
Joining us today, if you're watching the video, you can see, is my girlfriend, Jenna. Say hi,
Hi, Jenna.
Hi, Jenna.
Mike did the same thing.
Oh, great. Love to follow in Mike's footsteps.
That's all we can all hope to do these days.
So, Jenna is another member of our
Cult.
Stormlight cult that we've started, except she actually read any Brandon Sanderson before any of us, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I started with Mistborn,
When did you read Mistborn?
2019.
29. Wow, exact year.
So I was in grad school, so I do remember the year. I remember I was doing like a studio intensive course, and we had a lot of studio time, many hours in the studio, and I got through 2 of the Mistborn books during that time.
Yeah. And then how did you get into Stormlight?
So I actually had so I do the audiobooks. I had in my Audible library Way of Kings. And I had been like reading a couple other books. I think I read Dune, a few other ones. And I went on a date with Sam, and we were talking on our first day about like our favorite authors. He was like, "Oh, I'm really into fantasy." I say, "Me too." He's like, "What fantasy authors do you like?" Of course, I have to say Sanderson. That was the right answer. And he's like, "You have to read Way of Kings. Have you read Stormlight Archive?" I'm like, "I haven't yet. It's in my library. Maybe that can be my next read."
On the first date, it came up.
And it was.
And this is all in between the Nicolas Cage discussion?
Yeah.
How did that fit
Yeah,
in
I
there?
guess we could talk about that.
Another infamous story from our first date. Much Nicolas Cage.
Maybe too much, but maybe exactly enough.
Probably the right amount.
I mean, we're still together, so it must have been the right amount. Okay, so let's see. Do we want to? Oh, I wanted to ask. So you only reread the Interludes for this, correct?
So I know you were heckling me on the last episode about how I skipped the interludes. I did read these first 3. I think it was a little later in the book when I started skipping them. I remember reading these ones though.
Yeah.
So this was a reread for me.
Yeah.
Calling back to the last episode, I was wrong. For a while now, I've been saying that Axis the Collector is the very first interlude, and that's just entirely false.
That is.
He's not even in this set.
He wasn't in this set. I was expecting to see that one, but.
Hopefully you guys noticed too a little bit of an improvement in audio quality. We're hoping we got some new gear. We got a few subscribers on YouTube now, which is pretty exciting.
Very surprising, very exciting, and we decided to go and spend a lot of money on audio equipment because
it's fun.
It's fun, but also editing that last episode was painful for us. So like. Thank you for those of you that watched it, because it is the most watched episode, and it definitely has the most atrocious audio. So I'm very proud of it.
So,
right, I want to very quickly before we actually jump in, Jenna, how much of Mistborn do you remember?
Like all the plot lines. I can't say that I remember like the ins and outs of, Kelsier and his connection to this series,
right.
But I remember like the general story and like certain characters.
So is like as you got further and further into this series, then was there points where you're like, wait a second, like I already have a little tip here? Not really. It didn't. Okay.
It was like I honestly have a poor memory to begin with, and then like reading this next series, it was like 3 or 4 years later. So yeah, I didn't have a lot of those like details sticking, but I remember my favorite character was the Bone Dog.
Oh, sir.
What's his name?
Or sir, oh sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Bone Dog.
Yeah, the Bone
so
Dog
good.
was my favorite character.
Oh, Sam, I know we're adding so many to your friggin' list, but...
So do you want me to read Mistborn or Elantris first?
Elantris is quicker.
Okay, maybe I'll go to Elantris.
Elantris is quicker, but like Mistborn's more important.
All right. I'm almost done with The Great Hunt, second book in
Wheel of Time. How are you enjoying that?
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's a lot different of a series than this is.
But you've got Michael Kramer and Kate Redding to hold you down, right?
Yes.
Really keep you grounded.
Oh, yeah.
They have them on from the first book?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, because you've been listening to the episodes, right? Mm-hmm. So do you have, we usually do like a favorite and maybe a least favorite part of what we read on the episodes. So out of the story so far, do you have a part that kind of stood out to you as your favorite?
Like up to this point?
Right, yeah.
I mean, I really just reread those three, the interludes, but I feel like Kaladin and the Bridge 4 storyline was my favorite arc to follow at this point.
I think and that was like the same with I guess on your first read, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But looking back on it now, that's still like...
It's it's the earliest part of the story that I like remember getting really like into and grabbing me. I was having a harder time getting into Way of Kings than the Mistborn series. I think it was like an easier hook for me with Mistborn. But I do remember like when Bridge 4 started getting together, that's when I was like hooked.
I do think that that's actually interesting and true, because I was talking to Mike about that. I shouldn't point with my microphone hand. But Mistborn is so quick to get into. It's almost like how Way of Kings feels as a hook to Stormlight is like the first 20 minutes of Mistborn for the book. It's just like as soon as you do it, there's like that, and then you get introduced to Kelsier, and it's boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you can be in Mistborn. Like we joke a lot where it's like, oh, you get into Way of Kings like 600, 800 pages in. That's when you're like in it. Mistborn is like 50 pages in and it's going.
Well, we're like 200 pages into this book now, and we haven't been introduced to Adolin. We haven't been introduced to Dalinar.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't been introduced to Navani. Mm-hmm. Or Sadeas. There's so many characters, and we're so far into this book. So many characters that are like probably our favorite characters.
Yeah.
And they're not here yet. So like rereading this, I really love. I think I am enjoying it on the reread more.
I would agree.
But I'm kind of remembering, I'm like, okay, yeah. I remember it being kind of rough to get into this at the start.
I'm 100% enjoying it on the reread more. Like with what Jenna said, like the first time Bridge 4 was the only thing I cared about. It's like going through this, and it's like a lot of fantasy words, a lot of world building, a lot of names that are not real names. So it's like, who the fuck is this guy? And then you start getting like this arc with Kaladin and Bridge 4, and it's something to like ground and hold on to.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely more of a time investment you have to put into reading. And I had read the Mistborn trilogy, so I had that trust in Sanderson. If I hadn't read that already, like to know that it's going to be this, mega story, I don't know if I would have continued. But I'm so glad I did. Trust Sanderson.
Trust in Sanderson.
In Sanderson we trust.
Do we want to get into the interludes now?
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So the first interlude, we enter the scene at the Pure Lake, and we're following Ishikk, who is a citizen of the Pure Lake, one of the villages there.
When I opened up the book to start reading and I saw Ishikk, I was like, no fucking way is the very first interlude. At the time, I thought Ishikk was Ishar. And I was like, there's no way the very first interlude is Ishar. And I read a little bit, and it's like, oh, no, he's a fisherman in some village. Yeah. And it's like his name is literally derived from the Herald Ishar. That's why I thought that. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Funny. I don't think, because this isn't like, this is just the interludes a lot of the time do this, where it'll just be kind of a random person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
To give you the flavor of like a different place, a different setting.
Yeah. Which I love that this immediately throws you into the Pure Lake, which is like such a cool fantasy location concept of this lake that is only at its deepest 6 feet deep, essentially, but it's described as hundreds of miles wide. So it's this whole like region.
It's Lemuria.
Yeah. It's big Lemuria.
It's big Lemuria.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on to that point, the like one-off characters that aren't super connected. This character on the first read, I feel like, especially if you're reading Way of Kings as your first introduction into the Cosmere, this interlude feels so much separate from the other ones. Because Balat, we've already had mentioned as Shallan's brother. Like, going into Balat's interlude next, we know that he's Shallan's brother. But Ishikk is like, who the fuck is Ishikk, and how does this connect to his story on the first reread? But on the second reread, you know exactly how it fucking connects to the story.
Oh, yeah. This, because I didn't even remember this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, because you read these interludes, but I mean,
yes,
we went on your first
these
read.
ones.
On your first read. This, I didn't remember anything about this. When I started reading this again, it felt like I was reading it for the first time, because this just doesn't stick in your head as like an important, because it doesn't really get.
You know what stuck in my head? Rereading it, I remembered the foreigners.
Yeah.
Him being like, why would they not have their feet in the water in the bar? I remembered that specifically, that there was a table in the bar where they could keep their feet out of the water. And I remember the weird thing going on with him and the person who owns the shop in the culture being like, give and take for marriage, and like the transactionary thing. And like, oh, she'll catch me one day if she keeps giving me free stew. Like that weird culture part. That was what I remembered from this. Not the part that you're supposed to remember from this interlude.
Yeah.
But he gives her the good fish too.
He does give her the good, and he gets ahead of her, because that fish is worth like 2 weeks of stew.
Jack, we might have to edit this part out, but can you get up and check if the video's running? I want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right.
I think it is. I can see.
Well, yeah, the screen's on. I want to make sure it's running. Okay,
I can see the red.
We're at about 14 minutes, so we can cut that if we need to, or we just leave it in. We could just leave it in. Who cares?
We goof.
I like that it's like, we're not professional. We don't know what we're doing.
We're the
we might have
furthest
not
thing
started
from
the fucking video.
Where were we?
I just want to quickly read off a note, because like we kind of mentioned it, but we're gonna breeze past it, which is just like, it is really cool how the introductions are used as like, because the story is so Alethala centered. The introductions are almost like a, hey, like I did a lot of fucking world building for Roshar. You want to go look at some of the other places I built aside from Alethala?
So that actually, I have a note down. Where is the Pure Lake? I don't remember.
Oh, we'll have to throw up a map and talk about it.
Yeah, I was on audiobook, so I never had a visual map for the series. Which I wish they came with a map like in the file.
Well,
but
Sam's got a map exactly 3 feet away from him.
I don't think it's in here. I can check real quick.
I thought the front had a nice colored map.
Yeah, but it's just Alethkar.
Oh, okay.
I feel like with books that have so much political intrigue like these, like it is very important to see the geographical locations, which I never got with this series.
Pure Lake has to be east, because they talk about how the storms are very mild there. And the storms come from, the Pure Lake has to be west, because the storms come from the east and move across the continent. So if the storms are already kind of like died down and they can just put their rafts up and sit behind them, it's got to be pretty far to the friggin' west, I'd imagine.
Yeah, keep. Oh! It's actually like in the middle. It's north of Azir.
Okay.
So it's north of Azir, and then it's like a whole country away from Yakaved.
Okay.
To the west of Yakaved.
Jack, in the future, 16 minutes. Put a friggin' image on the screen. I know you forgot to do it last episode. I couldn't find where it was supposed to go.
That's okay.
I liked how proud Ishikk is of the Pure Lake. He talks about how like if foreigners knew how awesome it was, they would all want to live there. And he's kind of glad that the foreigners are like few and far between.
Yeah.
I thought that was cute. He's proud of his home.
Ishikk is just such a good character. Like he's such a good like one-off character.
Mm-hmm.
Like he feels very much like an NPC you'd run into in D&D. Like he's just he's fishing.
He does feel like a good D&D NPC.
Yeah, he's looking for lucky fish. Yeah, I love the lucky fish thing too.
Yeah.
It just throws so much like interesting culture of the Pure Lake at you. Like it talks about how the houses are designed to like flood essentially.
Right.
Like
so that they can catch more fish.
I don't know if it's. I mean,
I figured that was why.
I think it's just because they like being in the water.
Have their toes in the water.
Yeah.
It could be both.
Yeah, they talked about like having minnows coming in
Yeah.
and out of the house.
I thought that was a really cool visual. Him just walking around in the like bar of this inn with minnows swimming between his feet.
I like all of the enunciating his sentences with neuralic. Like
who is Neuralic, by the way?
Probably.
They said Neuralic is the god, but you have to pretend that
I don't have the second
that
one.
Boone Macaque is the god.
Yeah. So I don't think it's important for the greater Rosharan stuff. I think it's just pure like religion. But like
maybe it'll be super important in book 5 for some reason. Maybe this is like the most important interlude for book 5.
But if it's not important, we have this whole fake religion.
Yeah.
That gets mentioned once for the first interlude, and it's interesting.
Yeah.
And thought out.
It's definitely more interesting on reread because it's kind of a nice like palate cleanser between parts. Yeah. Whereas on first read, you were totally justified, by the way, in skipping the interludes. We didn't want it to come off in the last episode. It's like, I can't believe she skipped the interludes. I don't think it did, but hopefully not.
You're good.
But it is definitely.
You were definitely horrified the first time. I might have slipped that into our Sanderson talk.
But like at that point, I had like finished the series. On first read, it's very much like I remember being like, ugh, like why is this important? Why do I care about any of this? Because even like after you finish this book, if you remember anything about this interlude, it's like, why did I even bother reading this?
I do also just want to make a note. I did read the Szeth interludes, all of them.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
I read all the Szeth chapters.
Right, because Szeth is an established,
it's clear
interesting
how he connects to the rest of the story.
I could tell.
So
I didn't skip any Szeth chapters.
Yeah.
How would you, our big-eyed, bald-headed boy? How are you going to skip him? So, the foreigners.
Yeah.
Grunt, blunt, and thinker.
Thinker.
That
is Maraise, right?
I was gonna say that's Maraise, and Maraise is Kelsier, correct?
No. Thydakar is Kelsier. Maraise works for.
Which one's Maraise?
Maraise is the one with the scar who talks to.
Shallan.
Shallan.
Yeah.
As
right. I knew it was Ghostblood stuff.
Veil.
Yeah. I was. That's why on a reread, I think these interludes might be here for people reading the series multiple times. Because
for sure. I think the interludes might be here for people with a greater interest in the Cosmere.
Yeah.
Because it's Hoid.
Yeah.
And it's not even like the description is Hoid. They name drop Hoid.
Yeah.
It's 100% for
and this is why it never connects back in as you're reading, because the next time that he goes as Hoid is like book 3, I'm pretty sure. Maybe book 4.
Kaladin, he tells Kaladin his name at the end of this book.
Oh, he does?
When he gives him the flute.
Yeah, 600 pages later.
Yeah. So like the end of this interlude goes into part 2 is Dalinar, Adel, and Kaladin. Mm-hmm. Which means we're definitely going to get Wit's introduction, because that's really early when they go to the first feast, I'm pretty sure. Adel and Dalinar.
It might be the first chapter of the next part.
It literally might.
Yeah.
But like, because this interlude is so, you're already in your head like trying to keep track of what's going on with Kaladin and Shallan. Like, I know this is important, I just don't know why yet. That the interlude is so from left field that you're like, I know this is important, but I don't know that this is important. This might not be important. So then you get Hoid's description, and they just give you the description for him, and then they call him Wit for the whole book. And by the time they come back to Hoid, you've probably fucking forgotten about the Ishikk chapter.
Yeah. But on reread,
I shit my pants.
Yeah, so like on that, so we know Jack's reaction to this. Jenna, what was your reaction to rereading this?
Just to find out that they were looking for Hoid. I was surprised to see his name that early on. I was like, wait, they really are looking for him? Do they know who he is? Do they know he's Wit? Probably not.
No, I don't think the Ghostbloods know he's Wit at this point. I don't think they've found him yet. Basically, I could be wrong, but
I want to know why the Ghostbloods want him, because I still don't understand this.
That's true. We don't know what the relationship between the Ghostbloods and Hoid is, even after the 4th book in the series.
I also,
the only other interaction I think we get between them besides this interlude is Wit saying, does he say Thydakar or Kelsier?
He says Thydakar, I believe, in book 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's stay on your own planet, you big dummy.
I think that's the literal only other interaction between Wit / Hoid and the Ghostbloods we get for this series so far.
I think because Hoid meets Shallan so many times, he might hint at her. Like, I don't want to be definite on that stance. You might be right, but at the same time, because the first time Hoid meets Shallan, when Kaladin and Adolin are there, and they're all like, wait, we all know this guy? Shallan knows him from, like, childhood. She recognizes him. So there might
and she's, like, happy to see him.
Yeah, there might be a greater connection with him trying to, like, kind of protect her from the Ghostbloods, maybe. Right. Because maybe I'm assuming he knows what the Ghostbloods' motives are, and that's why he's so interconnected with Cal. And I'm assuming that he knew Daddy Balat was in with them and then wanted to help Shallan because of that. That's my headcanon right now. Daddy Davar, yeah. Balat is the name of
Shallan's brother.
Yeah.
Her now oldest brother, which we'll get to in the next part of this. Yeah, my initial reaction to this was my reaction on reread to this was very much the same. I was just like, wow, this is set up early.
Oh, okay, I just remember what I wanted to say. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's either the foreword or the postscript for Elantris is written by one of Brandon Sanderson's writing group buddies, Dan Wells, who's another popular writer. I don't know anything by him off the top of my head, unfortunately. But Dan Wells, the postscript's written by him and talks about Sanderson back in the days before he was published and, like, writing these big, like, fantasy epics that don't follow common fantasy tropes and stuff. And Sanderson says, I actually don't think it's the postscript because Sanderson says this. It's not like someone saying it for Sanderson. But he's like, the Cosmere started when he was a teenager dreaming about a man who would, like, link worlds that didn't know about each other. Like, this is the basis of Hoid, is, like, this entity that connects these places that are not aware of each other outside of his connection. And then reading all of the other Sanderson works where Hoid's there for, like, a chapter. He has, like, a little appearance, right? You're like, okay, I kind of see where this is going. And then as Stormlight gets more and more going, Hoid is more and more of a main character. And it kind of is breaking out of the, like, the man who connects the worlds in the background. Like, Hoid is now...
I think this is the culmination.
Yeah.
Because this is, like, I know Sanderson's, like, said before, this is, like, his main... Like, this is the series that he wants to be, like, his greatest series.
Right.
Or his greatest work. And I think it makes sense for him to have set up Hoid. I don't know what kind of part he plays in Mistborn, if any.
I'm not going to tell you.
Okay, that's fine. No, that's fine. I'll figure it out.
You will.
I don't remember.
I'm assuming he plays some sort of part, though, in that. Can you at least say that? Like, he shows up in Mistborn, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay. So, and he shows up in Warbreaker, which... I know we said last week the bonus episode for Warbreaker was happening next, but we had some delays.
No, we left it up. We left it up in the air. We said we might do Interludes first, and we're doing Interludes first.
Yeah.
Warbreaker will come out.
Warbreaker is coming.
Warbreaker is coming, for sure. Because I really want to talk about that book.
I do, too.
But yeah, Hoid's definitely, I mean, he's in it, but, like, that's kind of it. He's just in it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he doesn't have
He's
any...
a storyteller.
Yeah.
And...
Spoilers.
He doesn't have any greater implications.
Yeah.
Oh, we spoiled the shit out of Warbreaker already.
Okay, great. I should know this. I listened to all the episodes.
And we appreciate you for that. Did you have something to say, Jack?
I'm torn on whether or not I want to say it.
Just say it. I'm gonna read Elantris either way. It's not.
He's
or,
not even
Mistborn.
Fucking like he is in Elantris for a line, up until like there's the book. He's in it for a line, like a singular line in the book, and then there's the extra chapter, which is just 45 minutes of Sanderson going, in Act 3, I had another character, and I ended up cutting him. But
you've told me about this already, yeah.
And then there's Sanderson's postscript, where he talks to the readers. And halfway through the postscript, it switches back to Elantris, and you get a little Hoid bit.
Right.
At the very end of Elantris.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that.
And I don't know if it's there, or if I only got it because I have the 10th anniversary edition with that extra chapter.
Could just be a bonus scene.
It could, like, I don't know if Hoid was in, because Elantris is the first novel he published, and he mentions having placed Hoid in it tentatively because he was still working with this idea of him, and I don't know if that tentative placement was the one line where he's mentioned or the postscript, because I don't have the original book. I just have the 10th anniversary edition.
Yeah, so we haven't even gotten to the end of this interlude yet, actually. So Ishikk goes. He's caught a couple fish, and he describes. I think he says 4 fish, and 3 of them are common and dull, and then one is like a pretty rare one.
Chad fish.
And he goes to what could tentatively be called an inn. He kind of describes it as it's like the only building in their village suited to have
Travelers.
Visitors. Yeah. So he's meeting these foreigners here. We don't really it's not explained what his relationship is with them, really, I don't think. It
appears that he's an informant.
Yeah. I don't know if they're it doesn't seem like they'd be paying him.
No.
That's why I'm like, maybe this has greater implications than we think it does later in the series. Because I feel like it's important. Why is he helping them? Because he doesn't. The way that his character is set up, it's like, why would he just help these? Well,
isn't it like you said? He's like the NPC in the D&D campaign, and they're maybe the main party, and they're just asking around. That was what I got from it? Was that they're just sort of asking around,
right? And
asking maybe the people who they think will know information. Maybe a fisherman's seen the whole Pure Lake. I'm not sure.
I was assuming that the Pure Lake culture is so weird that he doesn't want money because he trades with people.
He trades in like favors.
Yeah.
Like
why would he need money?
Exactly. Well, I'm trying to figure out why he'd be working with them.
Maybe basically. He just did.
Yeah. For fun.
Because it's like he knows Hoid's name. That's mentioned where he's like I asked around. I don't know why they don't believe me. There's no sight of this Hoid they're looking for, and he knows the description. And he does mention the couple of names that they told him to ask under. So in my head, it's just like they showed up. They were like, "We need someone who travels around who might be able to find this guy." And he's like, "Yeah, I travel." They're like, "Okay. Here's the descriptions. We'll be back in 3 months.
Yeah.
Let us know."
Like maybe he's just helping.
Yeah.
Why not?
The Pure Lakers seem very chill to me.
I just thought it was interesting. He's like helping these guys that like he doesn't seem to really like at all.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just the culture of the Pure Lake is.
We just don't know yet.
Yeah. So. What else did I have in my notes for this? I feel like I had something else. Oh, it mentions that the lake drains during high storms. And I was like, do they mean the whole lake? Like, does the whole Pure Lake drain during high storms?
Do you have are you positing this as a question?
Yes.
Okay.
Or is it like parts of it drain or like drains partially? I was like, that's wild if that's like how it works.
I have to imagine it's like some sort of overflow.
Yeah.
Like as it fills up, it just spills over. Or there's like fucking magic. I don't know. Maybe there's a friggin' unmade living at the bottom of the lake that just sucks up the extra water.
Well, I mean, the reason I was talking about it is because he mentions that it drains because he's talking about how during a high storm you can find like a crevice to like hide in, essentially.
You can find a crevice to put your raft in and then just sit against the raft for protection because the storms aren't as bad.
Yeah. So I'm just imagining like what that would look like the like just draining out and random channels and stuff. But
it would look weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could just run through the channels from erosion if they've had too much water.
I just thought those are cool. This whole chapter is just full of like cool little details that.
Yeah, it's a really nice visual.
Yeah,
I'd like
the
to go
Epoch
there.
Kingdoms. The fuck are the Epoch Kingdoms? You get a brief mention of Epoch Kingdoms, never to be mentioned again.
Yeah. So he talks to the foreigners.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get back to that. He talks to the foreigners, and they're asking if he's seen Hoid anywhere. Or he informs them that he's asked around and hasn't heard mention of Hoid anywhere. And I don't know if there's a reason the Ghostbloods are looking in the Pure Lake specifically, or
because there might be a perpendicularity in the Pure Lake.
Oh.
What do you mean by that?
Perpendicularities are the word that he uses for places where you can go between the physical realm and the cognitive realm.
Okay.
There's one on the Horneater Peaks that they mention. The Well of Ascension is one.
Remind me Well of Ascension.
You don't know it. It's Mistborn.
Okay.
The Pits of Hath Sin were one. There's another big
So they
one.
think Hoid might be using that. Like
if
they think it's
that.
in. Okay, you're saying if the perpendicularity is in the Pure Lake, that's how Hoid is like getting to their realm.
Yeah, because the main perpendicularities are the Oath Gates, and those aren't open yet. So there has to be a different way into Roshar. We know there's one on the Horneater Peaks because he mentions it later.
But we don't know if there's one in the Pure Lake.
Maybe there's one in the Pure Lake.
So we just think the Ghostbloods are trying to find a way to world jump.
I think they're just thinking that Hoid might have been spit out there because they're looking for Hoid. But maybe the goal of finding Hoid is finding a way to world jump.
That's what I was wondering.
Wouldn't they already know how to do that, though?
I think it's Stormlight based.
Yeah.
And I think that not on my own, but that's as far as I'm going to go with that. I think they're interested in Stormlight, not Roshar itself, or getting to Roshar.
Okay.
The investiture on Roshar is the money bag. Roshar is a cold, wet rock, as Hoid puts it 3 books from now. They don't give a fuck.
That makes a lot of sense. That they'd want Stormlight.
Yeah.
But like
Stormlight is very, very powerful.
Have we talked about on podcasts like the power level, like, you know, the over 9,000 of Stormlight?
I don't think we have.
Breaths versus Aeon Door.
We've talked about it.
Yeah. So like, you haven't gotten into the Elantra's magic system yet, and you haven't gotten into the Mistborn magic system.
I know about the Warbreaker magic system, and that one is so drastically like, it's not as powerful. It's a lot more complicated to like actually learn how to use. It seems like there's a pretty high ceiling on how powerful it can be, but it's way like next to Stormlight, it's just like not as powerful.
Yeah, because Stormlight is like a resource that's outside of their body. I mean, the breath is something that they can. There's an infinite number of breaths, right?
Or you mean finite?
Finite. Yeah, finite.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Thank you, Jack.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
A finite number of breaths. We
So
don't know how finite the resource of Stormlight is.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
so
I think
that's
the thing
what
is,
I'm. Sorry. You go.
Stormlight is essentially, because of the high storms,
Infinite.
it's infinite.
Right.
And maybe that's like part of it. Maybe this is just an overall story outside of Roshar of them figuring out a way of like perpetual energy.
Renewable energy.
Stormlight is the ultimate renewable energy.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's Stormlight centered.
Yeah. No, I agree for
Okay.
sure. Yeah. But yeah, so you were talking. I interrupted with the Warbreaker thing, but you were talking about the magic systems in
Just breath
Mistborn.
is so finite and limited to like by person. You have to commit war crimes to amass a wealth of power on Nalthus, or whatever the planet is, however you pronounce the planet. Allomancy is cool and sick.
It's in Mistborn.
Mistborn.
Yeah.
It is limited to metal. Like it's not something that you can draw upon. Like Stormlight, you have to. Allomancy follows like the equivalent exchange theorem, and he likes talking about that in the book quite a bit. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? Stormlight, I love that part. It's so good. Stormlight doesn't follow that. And I, especially because I know that Kelsier and the Ghostbloods are so connected with whatever the fuck is going on with the espionage on Roshar, and Kelsier coming from an allomantic background, I do think it's him going like, damn, that power is powerful. I want it.
I think we might be overlooking one thing here that I just thought about.
Tell me.
So you guys have read more outside. You've read Mistborn. We've all read Warbreaker. You've read.
I will say, actually, I've only read the first trilogy of Mistborn. I haven't read the second trilogy.
But it's still more than I've read for Sanderson. So
also the second trilogy like changes setting. It's like a 200-year time jump.
I think I started it.
Okay.
Which I think is what the plan is for Stormlight is it's 2 5-book arcs, which is where I'm.
We talked about this a lot with the Kremling shell.
Well, this is kind of a crazy like there's so many people. I mean, yes, Stormlight's very, very powerful. It's extremely powerful. But is that enough of a motivation for the Ghostbloods and everyone outside of Roshar and Wit and like everyone to get so invested in? I think basically it boils down to this. My theory is like the next book is going to end. They might finish the Odium arc in the next book, because I don't think he's like the final big bad of this series.
Really?
And here's why.
Okay, but I have a counter to this after. But keep going.
This is like very out there, I think. But every other Sanderson magic system has these strict limitations and is purposely like kind of held back in some way. Like breaths, you have you have to literally have the breaths to do it. Allomancy sounds like it's tied to certain. I mean, you have the equivalent exchange thing. Stormlight doesn't have any of that, and it's replenished by a naturally occurring phenomenon on Roshar. That is the power. That's why it's so powerful, is because it's an unlimited resource. Go ahead.
Do you think that using Stormlight has anything to do with like why the Everstorms are coming? Like, do you think that? Like,
well, the Everstorms came about because of the Parshendi.
Okay, they started it,
right?
Yeah, they started it.
Never mind.
And I think this is all going to be kind of not small. I think this is going to be kind of the starting stages of the second arc of the series, where it's going to be much more tied into the Cosmere, and we're going to figure out why so many different parts of the Cosmere are so interested in Stormlight. And I think it's because of this like unlimited energy aspect of it. Because if you can harness the high storms and the Stormlight that they generate, then like that's real power. Like, I mean, I don't think it's just about surge binding and like being able to surge bind and like you can fight better if you can surge bind. I think it's like way wider than that.
Oh, I mean, yeah. And basis for that, think of the engineering feats Navani accomplishes in the 4th book.
Yeah.
Those are things that you could, would take the entire universe into higher levels of industrialism and stuff like that. I'm also going to turn around on my counterpoint and go, I think you're right. Because Sanderson likes doing the thing where the big bad, the big bad that has been set up dies right away. And then you find out that there's an even bigger badder behind him that's been in the shadows, kind of, working with his puppet strings the whole time.
Because Hoid knows more about Odium, and like and Taravangian and that whole thing. He knows about that already, which makes me think that
wait.
At the end of the book, at the end of the 4th book, he has the thing where he's like, he knows about odium. He's like, you stored your breaths, or you stored your. There's something like this.
Wait, hold on.
We've talked about this.
Hold on. Who says you breaths to who?
I think Hoid talks about breaths to odium. Right?
Taravangian says it to Hoid. And then what was the other thing?
Memories?
And you said Hoid knows about Taravangian odium. You mean you think that Hoid knows Reyes was killed and Taravangian took over the odium shard?
No, I just think he knows that odium. He knows more about odium than like we understand. Like I don't think odium's like came out of nowhere for Hoid.
Yeah. How much Adonalcium do you know?
None.
Okay, so like the Dragonsteel book,
yeah,
which was written and like I'm still working my way through all the Cosmere stuff, so my knowledge is like patchwork right now because I'm still finishing Mistborn Era 2 and doing all of like the small projects and Arcanum Unbound and stuff. But Dragonsteel was a novel that was written as Hoid's backstory before, and then he put it down and was like, we'll come back to Hoid's backstory when I feel like I can make it as epic as it needs to be, right? But in that is the lore that we know. I don't know where it's like properly delivered. It might be in Mistborn The Secret Histories where it's like said to us, but in Dragonsteel, basically 16 people from the planet Yolen, which has humans and dragons on it, and the humans on Yolen are the blueprint for humans that the shards use to make humans across the Cosmere when they fuck off. But the 16 people met and killed God and then split God's powers into shards.
This is in Dragonsteel?
This is in Dragonsteel.
Okay.
Adonalcium
I'm
was
trying to
God.
follow.
Listen, 16 people went and killed God and split his power into shards, took it to become gods, and then fucked off across the universe.
Okay.
Hoid was there and didn't take the power. He was there at the shattering of Adonalcium, and we know this from the epitaphs in Oathbringer, when he's writing out letters to the shards asking for help, and they're all responding to him going, we think you're a fucking nut, dude. Odium's trapped in Roshar. Don't worry about it.
But Odium's one of these shards?
Odium is one of the shards, and Hoid is very familiar with the Odium shard.
This still feeds into my theory of this is bigger than Odium. Like, I think Roshar is more important than, like, Odium is, like, the big bad of Roshar, but, like, Roshar is all he cares about, I think.
I think Odium cares about getting the fuck off Roshar. Tanavas trapped him in the Rosharan system. Braze is one of the planets in the Rosharan system. It's further from the sun, which is why it's, like, desolate and there's no atmosphere.
I guess I phrased that, like, his motivations at the moment don't really expand beyond Roshar. He wants to leave Roshar. It still just concerns Roshar.
Okay, yeah.
Like, that's where he's at. That's his goal. His goal is to leave Roshar, which would... It's all Roshar-centric at the moment for Odium. I think that, like, the second half of the series is just, like... the other thing I was going to say about this is because Stormlight seems so, like, just upside... Like, there's no all of the other systems have some sort of downside, either equivalent exchange or you have to do terrible things to get breaths. Like, there must be, because Stormlight's so powerful and it's seemingly free, I think there's some sort of greater
tax.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I was wondering. I know you said that the Parshendi are the ones who started, like, the Everstorm, but I was wondering if somehow, like, them using Stormlight, like, could have... I don't remember that part. But I wonder if, like, that's where the storms are coming from, because they're using, like, too much.
Well, the whole reason the Everstorms are there is because Odium has basically, like, corrupted the Parshendi.
But
like, I'm wondering if that is the consequence.
No, but I think Jenna has a point, because Odium was the humans' god. When the humans came to Roshar, remember we learned this in book 3, Odium was the humans' god, and at some point in the history they flipped, and the Parshendi started worshipping Odium, and humans started worshipping Tanavast.
Yeah.
The Everstorm could be a result of humans I'm about to say like when they encroach on Roshar and bring their god, this seen mix of power, Odium and the Voidbringers or the Parshendi becoming Voidbringers, like we didn't see that coming, and the switch of them worshiping him instead of Tanavast led to the development of the Everstorm. Like this is all a direct consequence of humans coming to Roshar. Right?
Yeah, no, I definitely I see that too. This is all like, I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there right now. I think it's gonna be interesting to keep this stuff in mind as we keep reading into the later books. Because I think we're gonna start noticing. I'm still. We're 4 episodes in. I'm so excited about rereading this series.
Dude, I cannot wait for book 2.
I know.
Book 3, imagine.
I know. Book 3 is just going to be crying every episode. Before we move on from the shards thing, I do want to mention that at some point, I think it's in Mistborn when they talk about Ruin, it's mentioned that the people who took the shards, they're people. They had personalities and stuff. But the shards of power, like they amass their own personality and will change the person that they are. So like Odium is the shard of like hatred and emotion. He is like straight up just emotional. That's his shard, and Hoid knows this. And Hoid also knew Ray's. In one of the epitaphs in Oathbringer, he talks about Ray's and was like think about what happened to Ati with the Shard of Ruin, and like Ati was such a good person and how much Ruin changed his personality. Ray's was a piece of shit before we shattered at an Elysium, and now he's got the fucking Odium Shard. Like, come on, guys. Let's so there's that. There's the changing of the host's personality to match the shard, and kind of like I feel like that's how Hoid started getting the better of Odium in the later part of the series.
Because he becomes predictable.
Was because he knew Ray's, and Ray's was so destroyed by the shard Odium that all he cared about was fulfilling the shard's goals. When Todium takes over, it's like a refresh on much.
So Todium is this. I don't know. Did you make this word up?
No, I didn't. I found it in the fandom. I don't know if it's an official fandom word or if it's not official yet. But Todium is Taravangian Odium, as opposed to just Odium, which was Ray's holding the Odium shard.
I just get a very funny visual in my head whenever you say Toad.
Toad from Mario?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Literally that. Yeah. That's what I was thinking. Like a glowing red and black Toad.
Please, Kaladin, your princess is in another castle.
That was possibly the worst Toad impression I've ever heard.
I was going to do one earlier. I didn't want to shriek.
Jack will do it for you.
Yeah, I will always shriek.
Okay, so we've talked about this for like 25 minutes now.
Non-Balat.
Well, we haven't even finished the interlude.
We haven't?
We basically have. Yeah. The foreigners just end up leaving, and Ishikk is back. So do we want to move on to the next interlude? Does anyone else have any?
Do we have any guesses as to who the 2 Makabaki men are? At all?
Is it Blunt and Grump?
Blunt and Grump, or Vao and Timu are the fake names they call each other.
I don't know if they show up again.
Before the scar was mentioned, and I became convinced that it was Maraise, and then talking about Hoid made me even more sure it was Maraise. I was like, is that Nail? But Nail's not Makabaki, is he?
No, I don't think so.
He's like Aesir, right?
I think so. I think so. Because Nail's the one who ends up Szeth ends up with Nail, right? Yeah. Later on? Yeah, okay.
One of those shield breakers or something?
Yeah, I
shield
think so.
bringers?
Because that's when Szeth ends up with Nightblood.
Sword Nimi,
yeah.
Nearly as fun as Vasha was.
Yeah. Did they call him Nightblood in this? Or do they just say Sword Nimi?
Nail might call him Nightblood, but I'm not positive. We'll have to get there.
Yeah. Also, we talked about this audiobook-wise. Who do we prefer, Nightblood in the Warbreaker audiobook or Nightblood in these books?
I like the evolution.
Yeah.
We talked about this, right?
But not on pod. I want to hear it again.
Okay, yeah.
Jenna. I thought it was funny in Warbreaker. I thought it was more like comedy than anything. I thought he was silly there.
Yeah.
I do. I like the
He's like scary in these books.
Yeah.
They play it more like dark in these books than it's
in
kind
Warbreaker. He doesn't understand why it's wrong. Almost, he's like a baby,
like
kind
a
of
kid.
that was born with the full English lexicon in his brain.
Yeah,
and he's just like, I don't know, man. I fucking love killing evil. And then in Stormlight, he's like conniving almost.
Yeah.
He's like that.
More
They
manipulative.
seem evil to me. I do feel like he's grown
you're
up.
totally right. I was gonna say I don't know how much of a difference, but there's actually a big difference. Now you're mentioning that because he is like
more conniving.
Yeah,
he like is trying to trick him into killing people,
Yeah.
Well,
as opposed to just being like, we should.
Because he knows. I think at this point he knows like certain things won't get him drawn, and certain things will.
I just feel like he grew up.
Yeah,
and it's fun going from Alyssa to Michael. The voices.
So no preference. You gotta have a preference.
Me?
Yeah.
Michael's the preference. Come on, Vasha would have drawn me much longer ago. You're much more you're much more exciting than Vasha was. Like just the way that Michael does the sly, almost Sadius voice is so good.
Jenna, preference?
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
I think I had more fun with him in Warbreaker. Actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'll be the devil's advocate.
You got to be a little bit of a contrarian.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta.
He was so fun though in Warbreaker.
I know,
too.
that's
it's
why-
hard to.
yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hard to say. Maybe Warbreaker.
He feels
I
like
don't
more of
know.
a main character in Warbreaker. That might
Yeah,
be,
he's part of the main crew.
maybe I just enjoyed him more in Warbreaker. I'm trying to think like
There's also less
strictly-
characters in Warbreaker, so he probably just stands out. way
strictly on the voice acting in the narration in the audiobooks. I think Michael Kramer's better. But
Michael Kramer's hard to beat. He's just a god.
yep.
more. Goated.
All right. Interlude 2? Non-Balat.
Non-Balat.
First thing I had down was why is Non-Balat so creepy? It doesn't really play it like he's like a bad guy. He just likes killing little animals.
Yeah.
He reminds me of young Tom Riddle.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
It's not really about torturing, but he does like the satisfying pull as he does it slowly.
He's
it's
just
creepy.
fidgeting.
It is fidgeting, but why does his fidgeting have to involve murder?
Control.
Oh. That's scary.
But I don't know if this ever gets addressed. Like his.
Well, I feel like this whole chapter is addressing it. No, like.
Yeah, maybe it's just a
Well, he
result
talks
of his
about how-
abuse.
the abuse from
Yeah.
the father drives Jushu to vice, Tedwakeen to despair, and he thinks only himself and Shallan escaped unscathed. That's obviously not true. You're sitting there pulling apart crabs.
You're right.
Crab
Yeah.
after crab, which is
You're
also I think
very
an
right.
early hint that like Shallan's not okay.
Yeah.
Balat's still alive, right? In timeline?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It could. He might have a bigger part to play in part 5 too.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I can see them having bigger parts.
I'm just
It
like
would be kind of out of nowhere.
It would, but at the same time, Ghostblood's having their hooks in the Devar family. Balat is kind of a little friggin' creep who likes killing things. Like I can see that evolving.
Yeah.
Especially if he loses connection with Shallan for a while. No, because they're with Shallan now.
Yes.
I was gonna say, especially if he uses it as like they think Shallan failed, and he has to come up with a different way to ease the Ghostbloods off of them. Maybe he joins them, but no, they're. I mean,
maybe
it's a stretch, but maybe.
could happen. I mean, we just went through my whole harebrained theory of what's going on. I think this is honestly less of a stretch, probably.
Dude, the only what's really going on is Hoid is traveling around all the books trying to pick up the fucking powers. That's what he wants.
He's just filling his Pokédex.
He really is. He just wants to go fucking. He's like, ooh, I heard Roshar has a new power today. I'll go see what that is. Maybe it will let me tell stories.
That's the true overarching story.
I have like no notes for this chapter.
Not a lot happened. It's really just I think setting up like the family
Yeah.
dynamic for Shallan for the
Yeah.
Devars.
So that's kind of the stuff I had written down too. Was so the summary of this chapter is basically that it's an intro to Shallan's traumatized family.
Mm-hmm.
We get to meet all of her brothers, and we hear a little bit about their dad. We are introduced to
His accent.
is Axhound. Well, I was gonna say her older brother.
He wishes Helleran was
Helleran,
there.
yeah.
Helleran's mentioned.
Yep. We get a little bit of the Yakoved culture where the eldest son is Balat. The second is, I don't remember what the other ones were. I'd have to look it up. But her other brothers are Wickham and Tet. No, okay, actually, Jushu. So, yeah, it's Wickham is the second oldest. It's Tet Wickham. And then Jushu is Asha Jushu because he's the third son. And then I don't know if Shallan has a title. But Halloran was Balat before he died. And now that he's dead.
He was non.
Oh, yeah, non-Halloran.
Yeah,
sorry. Yeah, he was non-Halloran, and now that he's dead, Balat is non-Balat because he's the oldest son.
So I want. Do you think that Jushu and like Tetwakine's names also changed?
Maybe actually, yeah,
Like,
because it would have been.
line?
They would have all moved up one.
Yeah,
because he
They leveled
basically
up.
Daddy Davard disowned Helleran when he left.
yeah.
And that's why he was like, "You're not my son anymore. Now Balat is non." Or something.
Oh,
like that.
yeah. I guess that's why he's Balat or he's non. And not.
So if he wasn't disowned, then it would have still been non-Halloran.
Even if he died,
Yeah,
it's
that
not
makes
him
sense.
dying.
That makes sense.
It said he was disowned.
He's crippled, and we don't know why.
Yeah, he's got a cane.
He also
Not
said
sure.
their father left behind a family of cripples, so he sees his brothers being crippled too.
Yeah,
Or Helleran's obviously dead, but Jushu as well.
yeah. Jushu is.
But he thinks that Shallan's okay.
Jushu is constantly depressed, I think was the thing,
Yeah.
and then Wickham is, or Wickham.
Yeah, they say Tetwakine in the audio
Wickham.
book. They talk about his vice. I think it's gambling.
Yeah, he falls into gambling. One thing I did have a note on is this chapter kind of like emphasized something that I have noticed on reread is the way that there's so many like wild creatures and like just pretty the scale of like how alien all of the creatures and stuff are on this planet versus like a normal fantasy setting or like like there's horses and that's about where it ends. Like everything else is you've got axe hounds. And I was like, what the hell do axe hounds even look like? Because I was reading it, I was like, I feel like this gives you enough description to get your imagination going, but I feel like anyone could read this and have like a totally different look of what an axe hound looks.
Yeah,
Because it has 6 legs, it has like almost carapace skin, but not quite.
it has mandibles.
And it has mandibles. And like that puts a very vivid picture in your head, but the picture in my head might be different than the picture in Jenna's head or Jack's head. And like, I think that's like.
I feel like the picture changes every time I think of Scrack. Every time I read that description, I'm seeing something different.
I'm tainted by Shallan's drawing of the axe hound.
Oh, I didn't see it.
There's a Shallan drawing of one at the end of one of the chapters.
Well, when I was
Is it in
first
there?
going through these,
I think it might be in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you can take a look. Here, I can hit the book. When I was first reading these, it was all audio, so I didn't get any visuals, I kind of loved that. I really love coming up with my own visuals in these books. It's like because it's so descriptive, and it's like I said, it's just enough to get your imagination going.
See, I hate seeing fan art of people, but I love seeing the animals.
Yeah,
It's like the people piss me off. It's like, don't touch that. Let me have my people in my head.
well, because all the fan art of people is just like white dude, long hair.
Yeah. Like, guys, Kaladin's not white. I don't know who needs to hear this, but a lot of you do, and he isn't.
Oh yeah, we said the sky yells too. I love that picture.
Yeah, I don't know
I-
if Scrack's in here.
I do
know what the
love.
accent is.
I love on reread seeing all of Shallan's sketches. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
But on first read, I
you
think
wanted to have, yeah.
just having the just the audio, just the description was perfect. So that's honestly this chapter just I don't even know if we could. I mean, the last chapter we did a half-hour tangent into fan theories because it just dropped so much important stuff there. This one is more like this one's like more grounded in this story where it's like,
oh yeah,
we learn about Shallan's family, and that's the point.
And even the next one.
Yeah, the next one too. We can start talking about that unless you guys had anything else you wanted to say about this.
I'm already done with Balat. I have no more for him.
Balat, bye.
Bye, Balat.
Bye, Balat.
All right, we're pissed up and sat down.
I'm leaving that in. What's up, chickpeas and boy peas?
Well, now are you gonna leave it in now?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Chickpeas and boy peas didn't make it in on episode 2. It's made it in now. All right.
Where were we?
The glory of ignorance. Szeth.
The glory of ignorance.
That's the name of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it has a name.
It does actually.
I literally said in one of the episodes, like, I got to start paying attention to the names of these chapters. I have a really bad habit whenever I read a book. If it has names of chapters, never read them. I don't think I read the little epitaphs at the beginning of the I think that's the right word, when they collect the
death rattles.
The death rattles, yeah. I was like not reading those because I read the first few. I was like, these don't mean anything.
Wow, that reveal must have hit really strong for you.
So it's not a requirement that people read every word of these books then to be a fan.
Oh yeah, on reread, you read every word. Like you just have to.
You have to.
I don't think you. If you're rereading these books, you're not skipping any. Like
yeah.
Like why would I be rereading this book unless I'm going to like crackheadily stare at the pages trying to figure out? It's like that one. I saw this video. It's like 2 hours long, and it's like, can I solve the Twin Peaks reveal before it's revealed? And that's how I feel talking about what's going to happen in book 5. It's like, can I solve the book 5 plot before he releases book 5?
Did you ever finish Twin Peaks?
No, not yet. Still.
Oh, you gotta finish that.
What's the reveal?
I never even finished. I didn't read the most recent season.
Oh, I haven't finished the most recent season.
I said read, watch.
I haven't finished that either. I didn't like it as much. I watched the first
couple episodes. I think I watched a few episodes.
Like, this is not my Twin Peaks. Maybe that's. I think that might be a hot take. Feel free to like yell at
his house.
Come for us about that.
Yell at me in the comments, but I could not get into. I mean, I did love Matthew Lillard is in The Return.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
Dude,
which is pretty hype.
I don't care how much flack I'm going to get for this, not even from our 3 subscribers, but from you. Matthew Lillard in the Five Nights at Freddy's.
He's in that?
Yes. He's the telephone guy.
Sorry, that was loud.
sorry, Jenna. He's the telephone guy in the Five Nights at Freddy's movie. And it's really good.
I got to watch that.
It was like a good fan service. And for a video game,
Josh Hutcherson's in that too, right?
He was fine.
Thank you, Jenna.
And Foxy scats. He goes like boom, 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 as he walks around killing people. It's great.
That's all the review I need to want to go watch the movie. It's got Matthew Lillard. It's got a scatting fox.
It was good.
All right, back to
Szeth
good media.
Wait, hold on. Who would Matthew Lillard play?
Hoid.
Hoid. Fuck
Hoid
Danny Pudi, Matthew Lillard for Hoid. No, I want to.
Speaking of Danny Pudi, he was in the me and Jenna watched the live action.
Avatar.
Yeah, he was in the Avatar remake.
Who is he?
He plays what's his name? Sai?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, he's the engineer guy.
Yeah, he plays the engineer guy from
the Sky Temple.
No, well, so it actually doesn't happen at the Sky Temple. He's in what's the city? The Earthbending
Ba
City.
Sing Se.
No, the other one.
I forget. It's their 2 names.
Wait, the one with like,
Omashu,
yeah.
Okay.
He's in Omashu. They change a bunch of stuff in that show to like speed things up, and I actually think that was fine. There were parts
that was not the part that we had issue with.
Yeah.
That's a different podcast.
Dude, Avatar podcast?
I'm kidding.
Avatar podcast? No, there's actually already a really good Avatar rewatch podcast. Well, it's hosted by oh my gosh, I'm forgetting his name.
The voice actors.
It's the voice actor for Korra, and the voice actor for oh my gosh, gosh, Zuko.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
Am I
right
saying
now. Zuko?
Is that
Zuko, yeah, that's a
The
character.
fire boy?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's Zuko.
That's a
I'm
guy.
like, I'm just.
He has a scar.
My brain's not working right now. It's Zuko. Yeah, it's Dante Bosco is the voice actor, and I'm forgetting the voice actor for Korra, but that one's really good. I love that body. I gotta keep listening to that because it's really fun. Just listening to Zuko and Korra talk about Avatar.
Yeah, that
it's
sounds
great.
wild.
It's so fun. Anyway, back to this.
This is another boring chapter. I hate
what?
to say it.
No.
This entire chapter, I was waiting for what inevitably is going to happen at the end of the next Szeth chapter, because this is not what I wanted. I was waiting for Szeth to get picked up by Taravangian.
Does that?
Yeah, but they need
not
this to
happen
set.
at the end of this?
No. He gets picked up by
He gets
the.
picked up by another rando at the end
it's
of
a
this.
rando.
Yeah, but
This
this is necessary to
See,
set
I
up.
assumed that was like gonna be Taravangian.
No.
Taravangian's just
No.
knifing
No.
people.
I
in the
finished
street.
this chapter and I was like, yeah, I guess, or maybe one of his guys. I don't know.
This is why I don't like it, because this exact chapter happens again, but instead of
All right,
random,
You're kind of right.
it's Taravangian.
Yeah. Okay.
It's the exact same chapter, except it's
He's being
Taravangian
abused
next
in
time.
a different way by
Yeah.
a different guy.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just like this shithead. Whoever kills the first shithead and replaces him with shithead 2 is shithead 2 at the beginning of the next one and gets fucking killed for whatever reason, and Taravangian as the Oath Stone. That's like this. We didn't need this.
Yeah, you're kind of right. I don't know. It was cool. Like I like that this sets up, because in this it's still part of like these are very like palate cleanser interludes. Like they're nothing really important to this story happens in these. It sets up Shallan's background. It doesn't advance the story.
Yeah.
Okay.
It sets up Shallan's background, and then it sets up that
Like Szeth's
how
relationship
Szeth's
with the
Oath
Oath
Stone
Stone.
works.
because think about what that interlude is way later. That interlude is way later in this book.
Really?
I think
The
so.
next Szeth one.
Yeah, I think it's.
I thought there was a Szeth one every. Okay, well, I don't trust anything I say after the Axis the Collector thing.
Yeah.
So
I think that one happens a decent ways down the line, and I think not having a Szeth interlude
I know
in
but
this set, like, it wouldn't make any sense to have Taravangian show up now.
I don't disagree.
And I
with
think
that.
there needs to be. I think these interludes needed to happen here at the end of part 1, and I think we needed to have a Szeth one for the pacing of Szeth's story. But I get what you're saying, where it's like this kind of just happens again. Something else could have happened here, for sure.
Yeah.
but
Let's go over what does happen in this chapter.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about that yet.
keeping us on pace. All right.
He's
Sorry, I interrupted. You can finish your thought.
No, you're totally right. We should go over actually what happens in this chapter. So in this chapter, Szeth is in the service of do they say in the audiobooks, did they say Took or Took?
Oh, I didn't listen to
You
the book.
listened. This is a you question, Jenna. You gotta know this.
The way I wrote it looks like Took. Yeah. But I can't remember, honestly.
We can say Took then. So he's in the service of a man named Took, who we learn just kind of picked him up by happenstance. Szeth has basically traded hands quite a few times now. The Parshendi kind of just left his stone. I don't remember what his stone's called.
Oath Stone.
His Oath Stone. They leave his Oath Stone, so he is basically bound to just
Whoever
stand
has
on the
it.
side of the road and say, "Take my Oath Stone."
He just holds it.
And it's
until someone
interesting
approaches him.
that the Shin culture means he like has to try to preserve himself. Like it talks about how he has to take off the white robe and like try not to get caught because he has to preserve himself so that he can suffer.
Mm-hmm. It's a punishment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm just putting together in my head right now from you saying that is his. What is the descriptory word I want to use from this? I don't have it. Just the undying devotion he has to his culture.
Yeah.
And then the way that it betrays him is just solidifying my theory that book 5 is going to be Kaladin and Szeth buddy cop duo to go fuck up Shinovar even more. Because, like, Szeth...
Why would they go fuck up Shinovar?
Because Shinovar has been hiding the fucking Oathblades for however many centuries and not telling everyone about everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And they did whatever happened to Szeth for Szeth to become a Truthless. And Szeth was like, it's right, I became a Truthless, blah, 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 blah. And then by the end of book 3, realizes that his culture's been, like, fucking lying to everyone for however many years. And he's like,
I don't have to do
dog,
this
I
anymore.
walked on a bunch of rock for this? Like,
yeah.
I 100% believe that Szeth is going to turn all of his unstable anger on to Shinovar after... Because, like, Taravangian's dead in Szeth's mind. At Szeth's hand in Szeth's mind. That's one of the things, one of his anger focuses taken care of. So next step is to go kill who made him Truthless.
Yeah. So continuing on with the chapter, Szeth is at a bar or tavern with Took, and Took is
shitty.
He's basically like kind of he's like, oh, look how
he's showboating.
Yeah, he's like, this slave is so obedient, I can make him cut up his own arm, and then, but Szeth, he's like, oh, cut your throat, and Szeth goes, I'm not allowed to take my own life. He's just like, I'm not allowed the privilege of death at my own hand, or something along those lines. So it kind of gives a glimpse into how, like, destroyed Szeth's mind is, and like how just blindly dedicated to his culture he is. He's
also in Yavkaved.
Oh yeah, that's in Yavkaved. They're in like a very remote region of Yavkaved.
He is in Yavkaved.
Yeah, which actually kind of makes sense in how he ends up at the Pure Lake, because he'd have to go through Yavkaved.
Yeah, but that's
to get to the Pure Lake. That's way later.
He goes,
oh yeah, I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, because he'll go to Urithiru before coming back to the Pure Lake. He moves around a bit.
This is true. I didn't think about that. I was just looking at the map. I was like, oh, well, Yavkaved is closer to the Pure Lake than. Yeah.
Is he already covered in beer at the start of this chapter, and then Took has him pour another beer on his head?
I think they're just kind of saying that, like, Took has him do this.
A
bit, a lot.
Okay, so like, he's saying he's been wet from beer before. Because he mentioned that he was wet from beer, I think, and then Took makes him pour the beer on his head.
I have to imagine every time a new group of people come into this tavern, he calls them over.
So he's
like,
done it a
few
times
fucking
already.
Bald guy that I can make fucking pour beer on his head. It's fucking sick. And then he gets stabbed.
Yeah,
I like that this chapter starts with Szeth saying that he likes looking grimy, so he won't be asked to like assassinate people. Yeah. Like specifically, like he'll do his he will do it if he's asked, but he'd rather not. It does go against his code, even if it doesn't go against like his culture, his oath.
Yeah. His truthlessness.
Yeah, he'd prefer not to assassinate, I think.
Oh, for sure. He's very unhappy.
Yeah.
So, Took and Szeth are heading back to Took's room, and Took gets murdered in the street, and so that someone can rob him, because it's established that this is like a very remote, like rough part of Yavkaved. And then the murderers are debating whether to kill Szeth or take him and try to sell him as a slave. And then Szeth is like, I'm obligated to tell you that this is my... Or they take his oath stone out of Took's pocket.
They're like, what is this?
And Szeth is like, I'm obligated to tell you that is my oath stone, and as long as you hold it, you are my master. And we also kind of get throughout this chapter that Szeth has been traded between many hands.
Since Gavilar's death.
Yeah. Because he mentions that the Pershendi had him before that, right?
Yeah.
In this chapter.
Yep.
So we know that.
I'm out of notes.
Yeah.
I had one more thing. He does mention that I think this is in his own head. Like imagine he's saying like, they wouldn't be treating him like this if they knew his power. And he said that they see him as a dark eyes, but like he does mention, I don't know if you guys would know better than me because you've reread the other chapters leading up to this before now. Do we know that your eyes can change from dark to light with power? Because he mentions that in this chapter.
Oh,
you don't.
You learn that in this chapter. He says like it's something he's saying like imagine the look on their face, something like along these lines. When he uses his power, his eyes will change.
Because he hasn't summoned the blade in years. That's one of the lines. So his eyes have. That's definitely the first mention of that here.
That might be my one takeaway from this chapter. Then.
Good catch.
I wonder if his power has to do with why he was made truthless,
or if he was given the power after being made truthless.
Okay, so here's where my brain is, right? This is the thought process. The Shin have been trusted with the honor blades to guard. Szeth, for some reason, for 2 books, has the honor blade of Jezrien, the Windrunner. Why would they have given a truthless Shin an honor blade? Did he steal it and bond it to himself, and that is why he became truthless? Like, does him having the Windrunner powers have to do with why he's truthless? I don't know. This is something that I've been ruminating over.
Yeah. That might be a book 5 thing, figuring out why Szeth is truthless.
I do believe it will be.
Yeah. So I think that's we've covered everything basically in the interludes.
Yeah.
I think we should do our normal favorite, least favorite for these interludes. It's gonna be a little weirder because these span so much more like story, but
my favorite was non-Balat. I just liked learning more about the Devar family.
Least favorite?
Least favorite? Probably the Szeth chapter this time.
How about you?
Ooh, favorite, I think, is... I just love the description of the Pure Lake.
Yeah.
That was cool.
It's just such a, like... It's so different than everything we're used to so far in the series. As far... Like, it really is, like, that palate cleanser that we talked about. Because this just, like, kind of throws back at you that the world is, like, way wider here than... Like just and then this is going to be a story that encompasses more than just the immediate events around the Shattered Plains, and it's the first like opening up into a wider world since the prologue.
Remember, this is only the very beginning of an epic fantasy.
Yeah,
don't forget.
So, I thought that was a really good reminder on a reread. I don't think I would have said that was my favorite part in my first read through. I think the Szeth chapter would probably be my favorite in the first read through. My least favorite is not the Szeth chapter because I think this is like really good. It maybe it's not like emotionally impactful.
Okay.
But it does kind of explain necessary backstory to what Szeth is doing here.
Absolutely fair.
I think my least favorite. That's tough. I don't know. I really like these interludes. It was fun rereading.
You got to pick something.
I know. Come back to me. You do your favorite and least favorite.
Well, noting what you said about Szeth being like really good backstory and introduction, that's my least favorite. Again,
that's fair. Like
it was redone with Taravangian
because you already on reread you already know this.
I know.
So
I don't know. I don't even know what could have been added or if it should be removed. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just my least favorite part of what we reread. My favorite was my reaction to Hoid's description and then jumping to write down that it's Marae's and they're definitely talking about Hoid before continuing to the next line where they name drop Hoid.
Yeah.
I have like an entire paragraph written and then below that I went, wait, they name drop him. Because I got so excited before reading.
I know
it's motherfucking Hoid. and then Sanderson's it's Hoid. That was my favorite part.
That's funny.
All right, least favorite. Come on.
My least favorite is...
Just say it was the epitaphs that you didn't read.
There's no epitaphs in this one, in the interludes. I don't think, right?
There weren't.
Yeah. I think my least favorite, I was thinking about this. I think it might be, and this is like a weird, like, this stood out as, like, weird to me, that Sanderson, and this kind of goes, I guess this kind of goes, I want to know more about the Pure Lake draining. That seems really important, and it just says that it drains, and, like, doesn't really expand on that at all. So and that's, like, the kind of the flip side of, like, it's not enough description. Like, the axe hound thing is, like, it's enough description to get your imagination going. This is, like, I need to know how this works, or it's going to drive me nuts.
Well, it's just the engineer part.
Yeah.
I'm fine not knowing.
But it's so,
I
like...
didn't even catch it on reading.
Like, the Pure Lake drains during the high storms. Like, what does that mean? This hundreds-mile-long lake completely drains? Parts of it drain? Is it like, because the way I envision the Pure Lake is I mean, I don't know how else you would envision it. It's completely just a flat body of water. Like,
well, have
it's
you been
one
to
body
a lake
of water.
before, like at the start of the season, and then like later it's like lower? I wonder if it just fluctuates. Like sometimes it's just much lower.
But it describes it as it drains, and I feel like that's...
My original...
I'm probably just overthinking
Maybe it
this.
partially drains.
Maybe. But why didn't he say that then? Why didn't he say it partially drains? Like, tell me how this works. I need to know how the Pure Lake works.
Because he didn't know you would be reading in this book.
I understand why this is your least favorite part. Too many questions.
There's too many questions that feel like they should just be answered here. Like, they could have been answered, but...
Brandon, how the fuck does the Pure Lake work? Is there, like, a well? Does it go... Like, you
that's
pull
what
a
I'm saying.
stopper
Like,
out of a bathtub?
are there like holes that it drains into? If it does, that has larger implications here.
Where did the holes come from? Why do they only open during the high storms? Why are there tides on the Pure Lake that is only at most 6 feet deep? How are there tides?
Yeah. These are all questions that I had. I was like, I need to know more about how this works.
Friggin', we have Q&A answers talking about friggin' if Vasher, Hoid, and Wayne were all in the room together, who would Vasher hit first? But we don't have Q&A answers about how the fucking Pure Lake works. Answer.
Please, we have to. And I bet
it was Hoid, because Wayne knows how to read a room.
I bet they actually talk about the Pure Lake and how it works more in book 4 when they get back to it, or book 3. I don't know when Szeth
Are
is
they
at the
planning
Pure
to
Lake.
go there?
Szeth is at the Pure Lake at some point. I think they explain it a little more,
Okay.
and I'm probably just forgetting. But
okay. I see
if it comes up, we will definitely remember and touch on it. But I don't know if it does. Yeah. I think Szeth being there is all about him training to be a shield breaker or whatever. I don't think it really touches on the Pure Lake mechanics.
Yeah, maybe not. Anyway, I think that's... Anyone else have any parting thoughts that they want to talk about? I think we... I mean, we're at an hour and a half recording. This will probably... We'll probably cut it like 15 minutes out of this or so. But
yeah, it was longer than I thought it was going to be for the interlude episode.
Yeah, I mean, this is like 15 pages. It did devolve a bit into us just speculating on our personal theories about things, which was nice. It was nice to do.
Dude, I love talking about any chance I get to bring up Adonalcium.
Yeah. That's just from Dragonsteel? Or is that
it
like
originated?
Or did you read this on a wiki?
No. There's a specific chapter that I just got to in Arcanum Unbound that talks about it.
And those are like all the short stories.
But
right?
it originated in Dragonsteel.
Those are the Arcanum Unbound's like the short stories and stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got like Emperor's Soul and
right.
The other one.
Right.
Hope of Elantris.
How long are those?
Hope of Elantris is 45 minutes. Emperor's Soul is probably about 2 hours.
Oh, so like real short stories. Okay.
The Mistborn Secret Histories, which is the one that I'm reading, the really interesting one. You need to read Mistborn Trilogy 1 before you read this, or else you're going to get a fuck ton spoiled. But it's also about 2 hours.
I think I'm going to go to Elantris next, and then I'll probably, after Elantris, I'll go back to Wheel of Time. And then I'll probably just shift gears entirely to Mistborn.
Mistborn, that's a good idea, because when you finish book 1, you're not going to want to do a different book.
No, yeah. And I want to get through the first 3 books in Wheel of Time, I think, before yeah.
Those are very much a 3 back-to-back book.
Yeah.
The way that they just go.
They're shorter than Stormlight 2, right?
Yeah, they're about 24 hours each, and then Era 2 is only 10 hours each.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, which is funny because we talk about, like, it takes like maybe 600 pages, maybe 20 hours to really get into the meat. And Mike finished book 1 and was like, I'm not really liking Era 2. And then by the end of book 2, he was like, okay, I'm into it now. And I was like, that's about as long as it takes. It's just really short. But I have no more.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys again for joining us for episode 4.
Thanks
Interludes.
for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thanks you for joining us.
And listening to us rant.
Yeah.
Participating in the rants.
Of course.
We hope to have you on again. You were a great guest.
Thanks.
This was a lot of fun. So we mentioned this at the beginning. We actually did get a few more subscribers on YouTube. We're at about 50 now, which we were not expecting. It kind of like
that's about 48 more than we were expecting.
Yeah.
Considering there are 2 of us with our own YouTube accounts outside of the Couchpact channel.
Yeah.
So that's 2 guaranteed subscribers right there.
I subscribe.
Thank you, Jenna.
Thank you. So
47
and
more.
you should too.
yeah, well, I guess we can do the YouTuber spiel now of like.
Please don't like and subscribe.
But do comment.
Yeah, comment.
You can definitely yell at us in the comments about things you think we're wrong about, how you hate us, all that good stuff.
Talk about how my hairline's receding.
Or maybe like say something nice if you feel like it, I guess. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely, we'd love to hear like any reactions to our theories or theories you guys have. Yeah, we want to engage with you guys and like figure out
who you are,
what your IP address
where
is.
you live,
your social security number,
or just your thoughts about Stormlight. Maybe just that. We can.
Yeah, how long would you...
Doxing can come later.
How long would you kiss Adolin for? Because I would kiss him forever.
Yeah, tell us how long you would kiss Adolin for in the comments. And I think we'll leave it at that. Thanks again for joining us.
Have a good one, everybody.
See you in the next episode.